Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today we have a very exciting profile because the Albaz Strike structure deck is finally out. So today I will be profiling for you guys my branded Despia Fallen of Albaz deck using the DPE engine in here. I'm not really using any of the other big engines. I sort of tested out through the deck what I really liked, what I felt comfortable with. I really did not like how the adventure token deck or engines all sort of fit in here, so that was scrapped pretty quickly. Otherwise, I tried out like the Dragoon and the Frightful packages, which were really cool, but eventually I settled on doing DPE and also using Crossout Designator. So if you guys are into those builds, definitely stick around for this profile. Or if you guys just want to see sort of a different build, I think that it's still nice to sort of check out all the different options. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Just for one last quick announcement, I am actually getting myself a gaming PC this week. Gonna be getting a little bit of an upgrade from my old laptop, so I will be trying to do my Twitch streaming again. So if you guys want to check out my Twitch, all of the links down to that stuff are in the description below. So anyways, let's get on with this profile. So obviously going to be starting off with 3 copies of the Albaz Jester of Despia. This card is so good for the deck. Being able to just search out for your branded fusion, the new like OP spell card. Probably like I can easily see branded fusion getting banned eventually, but I think that pretty soon in the future we're going to be ending up seeing it at 1. It's going to be like the next like Salaman Great Circle or something that just gets hit, needs to be nerfed. It's just so good for the deck. But anyways, 3 of this guy. Also, he can recur himself from the graveyard and negate one of your opponent's monsters. Super duper good. Going on into 2 copies of our Fallen of Albaz. This card is also just super nice for the deck. Being able to super poly with himself and one of your opponent's monsters is really cool. Also, he's just sort of like the namesake of the deck. Being able to just sort of use him for your fusions into like your really nice branded fusion cards. Those are like the main reasons why you just need to be playing this card. Then we're going to be getting on into 2 copies of the Despian Tragedy. This card is also super nice because this card is going to let you search for your Albaz or any other Despia monster that you want to get to your hand. Whenever this card gets sent to the graveyard by a card effect, which is just really nice. Basically, if your opponent ends up sending it by card effect, or if you just use this as like a fusion, fusion resource, really nice. Also, with this card, you can banish it from your graveyard in order to get one of your branded spell or traps back from your graveyard and set it on your field. You can only use one of the effects per turn, but still, it's really cool just to be able to use this to get back your stuff. Then we're playing 1 copy of the Dramaturge and 1 copy of the Ad Libitum. These 2 cards work in tandem so nicely together because if you get these 2 like in your hand and or field, and you use the branded and red card along with your the ice or the Mirror Jade fusion card, one of the new of the dragon fusions, they work so nice because when they end up getting banished, they get really nice bonus effects. So the Ad Libitum will actually be able to special summon back your Mirror Jade from the banished pile back out onto your field, and then the Dramaturge will actually just allow itself to special summon itself back out onto the field. And then whenever a fusion, synchro, exe, or link monster is special summoned, then you're able to negate another monster on the field. So just really nice to be able to do that stuff. Then lastly, 1 copy of Springen's Kit. This is kind of my tech for the deck. This also is a new card that came out in the structure deck. But the Springen's Kit basically just allows you an extra way to be able to get into your branded resources, because with this card, if you have a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material on your field or in your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. That's not like the super relevant effect. The main thing that we care about is that if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add to your hand one of your branded spell or traps that is banished or in your deck or graveyard. So basically from any place, and then you just place 1 card from your hand onto the bottom of your deck. But it is just still really nice to be able to get a branded spell or trap. Basically what happens a lot is if you use branded opening to special summon your Albaz from your deck, then your opponent might try to ash that so that you can't get into your branded fusion. But if they do that, then you can just normal summon out your Springen's Kit, and then you're off to the races as planned. Then we're getting on into our DPE package. We have, of course, the Celestial and the Dasher. Getting on into the hand traps, we have our 2 copies of Ash. Like I said before, I just sort of wanted to preface it at the beginning of the video. I am playing Crossout Designator in here. The main reason is because Crossout is going to help to make sure that we always get our Albaz and or our Despia Tragedy off, so that we can always get to our branded fusion, which is the main, sort of like the win condition of this deck. Just to see that spell card is so powerful. Then we're getting on into our 2 copies of Ghost Bell, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre. All of these hand traps, the hand trap lineup can totally change depending on what you're seeing at your locals or just what you think is around in the meta. 2 copies of Effect Veiler, and then 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Overall, Infinite Impermanence is really cool just to be able to have in here. The only downside of this is that with your Guardian Chimera, Chimera does allow you to draw extra cards, usually you draw 1 or 2 cards off of its effect when it's summoned. The thing is that that's why I really wanted to focus on these cards that really help you out when you draw into them. Infinite Impermanence doesn't really work, obviously, when you have stuff on the field, so I was even considering dropping 1 Infinite Impermanence and playing a copy of like Ghost Mourner or something else, but still having 2 copies of Imperman here is nice for when you're on the going second and you're just trying to break through your opponent's board, so or just trying to negate their stuff. So overall, I still really liked playing the 2 Imperms in here. Then we're going to get on into 3 copies of our Crossout Designator. I just kind of wanted to do all of this stuff with the hand traps back to back. So Crossout Designator, super cool. Also just like another really cool instance that you can have. Obviously against the mirror match, you can stop your opponent from using like Albaz or Tragedy or whatever, or obviously their branded fusion, which is another really amazing hit. But another really cool thing that you can do is that if you know that like your opponent searches for like a super poly, if they use like a pot of prosperity, if they use prosperity and then like they pick up a super poly or something and then like they set it to your field, you can easily just like use Crossout Designator, which is really funny. Call super poly and then you can establish your board. There's just a lot of really cool interactions with Crossout Designator in this deck, but mainly for the mirror match and just for those hand trap lineups is a really big plus. Then we have our 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Not much to say here, but this card is so good. Basically, with this card, you get to fusion summon using materials from basically anywhere. It's just so crazy. Hand, field, deck, whatever you want. It is just super insane. The main thing with this deck is that you just always have to remember when you're locked into fusion monsters, so that's why we're only playing the 1 link monster in the deck, but we will in the extra deck, but we'll get to that a little bit later. 3 copies of our branded opening. This card can get you into Albaz or whatever Despia monster that you need, and then also this card is also going to give you some protection in your graveyard, because if your opponent is going to destroy one of your fusion monsters, then you're able to just banish this from the graveyard instead, which is really cool just for like those monsters that you really want to protect. Then 2 copies of Branded in Red. This card is super nice. This card can get set to your field by some of your cards, which is super nice to be able to use this as a quick effect during your opponent's turn. Then also for another quick play spell, we have our 3 copies of Super Poly. Some people play this at 2, but honestly, Super Poly just wins games. So I really liked playing this card at 3. Then for our last of the fusion cards, we have our 2 copies of Fusion Destiny to be able to get into our DPE, our 1 copy of Called by the Grave, and 1 copy of Foolish Burial. This is another card that I was considering just sort of replacing for another hand trap, or even maybe just 1 copy of Polymerization. You guys can sort of go with it however you feel, but I wanted to keep this at a very tight 40 card deck, because you just want to be able to see the branded fusion. You maybe want to see a Crossout Designator, and then you want to be able to get into either your Albaz or your Despia Tragedy. So really those are like the big things. So I wanted to keep this at a tight 40, and using Foolish Burial to send your Despia Tragedy is just still a really nice play. It basically gives you like an extra copy of your Tragedy and therefore an extra copy of your Albaz. So wanted to keep it at a tight 40 card deck, and I'm really happy with how it's been performing. But now let's get on into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we are playing, of course, the 2 copies of Guardian Chimera. This is one of the all-time best cards in the extra deck. This card is super duper nice because when it is fusion summoned, you have to use materials from your hand and field, so you have to use 1 of each at least, and so you need 3 materials as well. So basically with this card, if you use 2 cards from your hand and 1 on the field, then you're able to pop 1 card on the field and draw 2 cards, which is really insane, and then vice versa. 2 on the field, you destroy 2 cards, and 1 in the hand, you draw 1 card. So it just sort of like replaces all of those materials, which is super duper cool. Also, there is the added benefit that if polymerization is in your graveyard, this card can't be targeted. I didn't really want to focus on that too much. It is a nice benefit from playing the Fluffle package, but overall, I just wanted to focus on more hand traps and just sort of like that last factor, like I mentioned. Basically, like the 40th card of the deck was the Foolish Burial, just to get an extra copy of the Tragedy. Just to be able to get into all of our combos and stuff. So overall, I thought that it was still really nice just to be able to play the concise 40 card deck, and I didn't really need to focus on that too much, but Guardian Chimera just overall is still just a house. Then we're going to get on into our 2 copies of the new Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, basically allowing you to shuffle back in materials from your graveyard as your materials, as well as like your hand. What is it all together, just so I don't mess this up? So if this card is fusion summon, discard 1 card, fusion summon a level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the materials back into the deck from your field, graveyard, and or face-up banish cards, which is just insane. So there's a really nice combo where you're able to just use your branded fusion in order to send your Tragedy and your Albaz into the graveyard. Then Tragedy is able to search for you for your Despia monster, which is generally going to be your Albaz. Then along with that, then you use this card on the field in order to shuffle himself back and the Albaz back into the main deck. And then you are able to go into the Mirror Jade. And so Mirror Jade is just sort of another really cracked card, because with this card, while it's on the field, you're able to banish 1 monster on the field and send 1 of your fusion monsters from your extra deck to the graveyard. That mentions Fallen of Albaz on its name. So it just helps you to get stuff like your Albion, which we were playing 2 copies of the Albion. Just send them to the graveyard. That way you can get off their nice graveyard effects, because this card is going to be allow you to be able to set your branded in red directly from the deck and set it out onto your field, which is a quick play spell, which is going to allow you to do some nice nasty plays during your opponent's turn, generally going into your Guardian Chimera, so you can get a pop 2 or a draw 2. Whatever it is, it's always going to be amazing, and that's why I also just like playing this high hand trap version of the deck. That way you can see a lot of these hand traps during your opponent's turn, which is really, really cool. It just sort of synergizes all really well together. That's why I really like this form of the deck. So only playing 1 copy of the Mirror Jade. So overall, this is like a nice 5-card package that all just sort of plays into itself. But I didn't find the need to play an extra copy of Mirror Jade. This might change in the future just because it is such a powerful card, but overall, a lot of these cards can just sort of recycle around and whatnot. And like I was mentioning in the deck profile earlier, the Despian cards, the Ad Libitum, as well as the Dramaturge can pair really, really nicely together. So the Ad Libitum, if this card gets like banished around the same time that you do the Mirror Jade, then with this card, if you use the branded in red, send all of these 3 to go in for your Guardian Chimera. Then you're going to be able to use the Ad Libitum to bring this back out onto the field, and then you're able to reuse its effect in order to send one of your, or banish one of your opponent's monsters, and then send another Fallen of Albaz fusion. It's so nice. Then we're getting on into our 2 copies of Masquerade, just for that nice little 600 burn damage, which is kind of cool. Also, this card can recur itself back out onto the field. But if you play this against like a big combo deck, basically if you put both of these out onto the field, their effects do stack. So every time your opponent activates a card or effect, they are going to take 600 damage. And then if you get both of these out onto the field, then your opponent's going to take 1200 damage every time they activate a card or effect. And then that can stack up really, really quickly. 1 copy of Despian Quadratus, 1 copy of Despian Proskenion. Then for our super poly targets, we have a Predaplant Dracostapelia, 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, and then also 1 copy of Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, which actually in and of itself is another super poly target. It's not going to come up very often, but actually if your opponent does have out like their own Phoenix Enforcer, and you draw into, let's say, really any of your Destiny Hero monsters, but your Destiny Hero Celestial is going to be the one that's easier for you to normal summon. So you could actually normal out Celestial Your opponent has out Phoenix Enforcer, activate Super Poly, fuse them together, and now you have a Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer and your opponent does not. Then lastly, we are going to play our one copy of Predaplant Verte Anaconda. This is a fusion-based deck, so we just want to have that one fusion, that one link monster that can get us into virtually all of our fusion plays. I didn't want to play the Dark in here just because I wanted to play extra names, but overall the Despian Proskenion actually does basically the same thing that the Dark does for the deck. It allows you basically to either banish one of your opponent's Fusion, Synchro, XZ, or Link monsters in the graveyard, banish it, or special summon it out onto your field, which is really cool. Let's get on quickly into the side deck. So the side deck is a work in progress, but probably what I'll be playing at locals this coming weekend. 3 copies of Nibiru. I really wanted to find space for this in the main deck, but overall I just sort of had to move it on into the side deck because we are playing so many other high impact hand traps that Nibiru is going to come in clutch in games 2 and 3 if we're not, if our opponent is playing something combo. Then we have our 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird. I'm playing sort of some weird ratios in the side deck just because I am playing Crossout Designator, so it's like if Droll ends up being a problem, I just sort of want to have this to be able to put into the deck. And then also, this just isn't a great Droll format. There's a lot of big decks that Droll does actually hurt, but there's also a lot of them that it just doesn't really care about. Then we're going to get on into 2 copies of our Artifact Lancia, 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, 2 copies of Lightning Storm. I actually upgraded and now I have 2 copies of Lightning Storm. Thank you very much. 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, just for more of those back row heavy decks. 1 copy of Dark Ruler No More, just in case the opponent is playing Dark Ruler. I can always follow up with using Dark Ruler No More as a crossout target, but I did not find space really in here to fit in Forbidden Droplet. But overall, I think Dark Ruler No More is just a nice option to have in here. Or if I'm playing up against something really big, like playing up against Floowandereeze and whatnot, having the Dark Ruler No More in the deck is still a nice option. Again, for that back row hate, we do have our 1 copy of Red Reboot. And then for the Prank Kid matchup, obviously we got to be playing the Weather Washer. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this deck profile and full deck profile with the side deck and everything in here. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. This is still pretty fresh, so there could end up being some changes, but I really like how this ended up sort of playing out. There's a lot of really cool cards that we can now sort of play around with, like using the Mirror Jade and using obviously Guardian Chimera, which we've had out for a little bit now, and then the Lubellion. These cards are just so phenomenal. It's such a fun deck. So please subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I will also be doing a how to destroy the meta video over on the Patreon that will be coming up hopefully by the end of this week. So if you guys are interested in joining the Patreon and you guys want to see more of a combo tutorial on this and just sort of see how you guys can hand trap and floodgate against this deck, go ahead and check out the Patreon. That video will be uploaded very soon. Also, if you guys are interested in me doing like a combo tutorial on this deck just here on the main channel, let me know down in the comments below. I would be more than happy to do that. So let me know in the comments and we will catch you guys for the next profile. Peace.